Deutsch 102, Kapitel 5. In this unit, you're going to be talking about personal pronouns in the accusative. In English, personal object pronouns are often different from the subject pronouns. It is the same in German. So we say, I love him, ich liebe ihn, he loves me, liebt mich. Wen liebst du? Lieben Sie Ihren Vater? Lieben Sie Ihren Hund? Liebst du deinen Freund? Liebst du deine Freundin? So people and things all have gender in German. And because they all have gender, the personal pronouns for these things have to follow the same pattern. Ich mag diesen Film, ich mag ihn. So film is masculine, so you have to say ihn. These are the personal pronouns. So you have ich, and then in the accusative form. So you have ich, mich, du, dich, ihn, es, it's also es, sie, and sie. So those don't actually change. The ich and mich changes, the du to dich, to ihn. And then in the plural you have wir, and the accusative uns, ihr, euch, sie, and then the sie forms are all the same. For they and them, you and you for the formal. So one way to remember which prepositions always take the accusative is with this acronym DOGFU. So the D, durch, ohne, so durch, through, ohne, without, gegen, against, für, for, can be for time or about. So nouns and pronouns of prepositional phrases. These are the objects of the preposition. So after the DOGFU prepositions, you use the accusative. And just remember, it only changes in the masculine. So if you say für wen, for whom, für wen kaufst du diesen Kaffee? Ich reise durch die Schweiz, fahre nicht ohne mich. As some examples. And then sometimes when you have das, it's often there's often a contraction. So instead of durch das, it's durchs, für das, fürs, das, ums. And these are really used more in colloquial German and speaking. There are some compounds where with da, so if you say dafür, like I'm for something, ich bin dafür, or dagegen, I'm against it. Nein, sie ist nicht dafür, sie ist dagegen. So the other thing in this unit we're talking about is the comparative of both adjectives and adverbs. So to form the comparative, you add er to the adjective or adverb. There is only one way for this. Klein, kleiner, schnell, schneller. One-syllable adjectives or adverbs with vowels, a, o, and u, often have an umlaut in the comparative. So it's groß, größer, nah, näher, kurz, kürzer. There are a few irregular ones, some spelling changes. So for verbs like teuer, you have the er, you add teurer, T-U-R-E-R. So they drop the other E, right? So you have T-U-E and then R-E-R. Dunkel, dunkler. And other irregular forms, gut, besser. It's a little bit like English, we say good, better. Gut, besser, viel, mehr, hoch, höher, gern, lieber. So when you have a comparative adjective before a noun, it takes the same endings as adjectives before a noun do. So you have wer hat das größere Zimmer? Zimmer is feminine, so you're going to add that I, größere. Ich habe ein kleines Auto, aber ich möchte ein größeres. So Auto is das, right? It's neuter, so you add the es, größeres. So I'd like a bigger one. And then in order to form the superlative, which in English is when you say the most of something. He has more, the most, or the best, or the biggest, those forms. The forms in German, you have to use am and then sten as an ending. So, am schnellsten. Fährt am schnellsten. He drives the fastest. Das Zimmer ist am wärmsten. That room is the warmest. And here are the forms for the irregulars. Groß, größer, am größten. So those take umlauts. Gut, besser, am besten. Viel mehr, am meisten. So that one changes a bit. So that means the most. Gern, lieber, am liebsten. So if you like something the best, ich habe es am liebsten. Hoch, höher, am höchsten, so the highest. Nah, näher, am nächsten, the closest. So here's a little bit of practice. Welche Stadt der Welt ist am größten? Welche Person ist die älteste der Familie? Haben Sie Geschwister? Ist Ihr Bruder oder Schwester älter oder jünger als Sie? Ist Ihr Vater größer oder kleiner als Sie? Wo waren Sie gestern Abend? So if you're using a noun, do not use with a noun. Instead, you're going to add e or just st to the adjective ending, depending on the ending of the adjective. Das ist der teuerste, so the most expensive, teuerste Wagen. Das ist das neueste Notebook, die größte Stadt. Okay, and if the adjective adds in t, d, or t, d, t, z, sh, you add an e before the st. So you have kalt, kälteste. Object clauses that are introduced by das, which means that. So sometimes the object of a verb is a clause. So in German you use das to introduce the clause and it becomes a dependent clause. And you always use a comma before das. So ich hoffe, dass es Ihnen gut geht. So I hope that all is well with you. Ich hoffe, dass ihr immer schönes Wetter habt. I hope you always have good weather. And then when you have information questions as object clauses, again, this is part of this unit, these are introduced with phrases. For example, phrases like Entschuldigung, wissen Sie, weißt du, and then the word order is going to change here. So you have wie viel Uhr ist es? So when you're asking a question with these words, it's not really taking, it changes the word order for the question. Wie viel Uhr ist es is the normal question, ist es. But when you say weißt du, you're going to change the order. Weißt du, wie viel Uhr es ist? Wann fängt der Film an? Regular question. Weißt du, wann der Film anfängt? So we have this in English also. If you say, what time is it? You have regular question, word order, verb is it. But if you say, do you know what time? Now you have to say it is. So German does the same thing. Weißt du, wie viel Uhr es ist? And then just yes-no questions. This is similar to what we just looked at, except sometimes they use ob, which means if or whether. Weißt du, ob Claudia zu Hause ist? Do you know if Claudia is home? Weißt du, ob morgen kommt? So your conjugated verb goes at the end. The verb wissen is irregular in the present. Ich weiß, du weißt, weiß, sie wissen, wir wissen, ihr wisst, sie wissen, sie wissen. So notice in the ich weiß, du weißt, und sie, es weiß, you're using the sz. And then it changes in the sie form and in the plurals. So there is a difference between these two verbs, wissen und kennen. So wissen means to know, having knowledge about something. Wissen Sie, wo wohnt? So do you know where he lives? Kennen is to be familiar with, acquainted with, usually a place or a person. So do you know this man? Kennst du diesen Mann? And sein in the past, so we also did some past tense in this chapter. Ich war, I was, ich war, du warst, sie, es war, sie waren, wir waren, ihr wart, sie waren und sie waren. So this is the past, I was, you were, and so on. And then the past for haben is hatte. So I had, ich hatte, du hattest. Sie, es hatte, sie hatten. Wir hatten, ihr hattet. Sie hatten und sie hatten. And then for the modals, you're going to add T to the stem and then add the personal endings. And the umlauts that are sometimes in the present are dropped. So, for example, können is the verb, but in the past it becomes ich konnte. So ich konnte, du konntest, so it means I could do something. Du konntest, sie, es konnte, sie konnten, wir konnten, ihr konntet, sie konnten und sie konnten. Gespräch, so it's a little more practice. In the past, hattest du gestern genug Zeit zum Studieren? Did you have enough time to study yesterday? Hattest du als Kind einen Hund oder eine Katze? So did you have a dog or cat as a child? Was konntest du als Kind machen, das du jetzt nicht mehr machen kannst? What could you do as a child that you can't do now? Was wolltest du als Kind werden? What did you want to be when you were a child? Wo warst du gestern Abend 8 Uhr abends? Where were you last night at 8 o'clock in the evening? So the best way to learn the gender of nouns is really learn it with the article. So learn das Kind, der Wagen, die Frau, so that you just learn them together. But there are a few ways to predict it. So nouns that often end in OR or ENT tend to be masculine. So der Professor, der Student. If they add in IN or UR, often those are feminine. Die Lehrerin, die Temperatur. And if they end in MENT or often they are neuter. Das Instrument, das Gymnasium. There are, of course, exceptions, but this can help you at least guess when you don't know. And then ordinal numbers, you're adding T and the adjective ending, so they do add this ending. So it's zwei, das zweite, and some forms down below here, erste, dritte, siebte, achte, they change a little bit. But the other ones, if it's sechste, neunte, zehnte, you're just adding T and an E. So hin und her. So hin means away from the speaker, her means toward the speaker. And these verbs, when you have the question word, you'll see how this works. So wo bist du? Where are you? Wohin gehst du? So this means where are you going to? Woher kommst du? Where are you coming from? So just remember, wohin is in the direction away from the speaker, woher, direction toward the speaker. Danke für Ihre Teilnahme.